everyone, welcome to season 2 of The Spirit of Success. I'm your host Yara, and on today's episode, we will be discussing careers related to music, music production, music writing, and singing. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with multi-award winning and world-renowned music producer, songwriter, composer, arranger, and recording artist, Mr. Casey Porter. Mr. Porter, with a career spanning almost 40 years, is a Grammy and two-time Latin Grammy Award winner who has produced and written over 40 albums. He is also a member of both the American and Latin Recording Academies. Having worked with and working with some of the biggest names in the music industry, including Michael Jackson, Ricky Martin, Janet Jackson, Alejandro Sanz, Laura Pausini, Carlos Santana, Selena Quintanilla, and Celine Dion, Mr. Porter has and continues to make a big impact in the music industry globally. Mr. Porter is also one of the founding members of Oneness, a nonprofit organization which promotes racial unity through music, the arts, and education. Welcome, Mr. Porter. How are you today?
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here on the show today, and I'm super excited for our conversation. So, before we get into the details of your career, we would love to know what got you into music and producing, and how did you get your start?
Well, I think I had a little bit of like the fact that my father was in music. It was I had a little extra help. My father was always playing piano, doing arrangements around the house. I grew up in Los Angeles, so we were always around a lot of music because it really is a hub for music. My father was working on TV show music for a show called Lassie, Woody Woodpecker, all kinds of stuff. So, and then I remember actually that he was, I think he was working on an album with a group called the Dawnbreakers. I think this was right before Seals and Crofts came out. So I think it was Seals and Crofts are like the manager's daughters or something like that. So anyway, so I was just around this music so that people were coming and going all the time. So anyway, it was always around.
So what made you decide that music is something that you wanted to continue into the professional realm? I think it takes something very special and something specific that makes you know this is what I want to continue pursuing for my future. What was that for you?
You know, it's I don't know if it's just because you're around it and you feel like this is what everybody does, you know, if it's that kind of thing, or if it's something that it just pulls at you. Like I would walk into a studio and it was like I felt like this magnet was just pulling me in, like I had to be here. And you know, and every single day that I spend in the studio, it's like I step in and get into my little world. And then before I know it, I just look up at the clock and it's just like 9 o'clock at night. You know, it's like, so it's kind of like you're not really working, especially when you're doing something where you really, really thrive and where you're really passionate. That's where we all need to be. Not everybody may be lucky enough to find that or to know what that is, but I urge everybody to really try to find where you are just exhilarated and just so happy to be doing it. That's so much so that it doesn't feel like work.
That's great advice. So moving on from that, and as you said, you have this connection to music and it kind of pulls you. So you found it as a way to express yourself that is very specific to you. And so from that, what messages and values do you try to promote through your own music and singing, as well as in the music that you produce for other artists?
If the other artists allow it, you know, we try to do music that may hopefully elevate our spiritual conscience, you know, try to use music as a ladder to the soul. A lot of artists don't really understand that because they're trying to catch the next, you know, hit for, you know, and try to be connected to what's going on radio now. And I think it's the best thing is to not follow trends because you're I don't know, you're always going to be in the back of the line, you know. But if you try to be a trendsetter by just doing whatever you feel, whatever really again makes you tick and really makes you excited, I try to do that with music from that global perspective. I try to do something different, something that I feel that may not be what everybody, even a musician may tell me, you can't really do that. And I'll be like, why not? If it feels right, that's what we need to do. On the other hand, like when you talk about uh, lyrical content or what the message is that the song is saying, that's a whole different thing. And that's something that's very personal for artists. A lot of artists don't want to necessarily have a too positive or too preachy or goody two shoes kind of thing. And I understand that. But it's weird because it's like albums went from in the 70s and 80s to like people were actually smiling on album covers. And then before you know it, everybody's all and tough and angry and right and artistic. I think the most important thing is to allow artists to be artistic and to look artistic and not look like, your mom took your photo of you and that's your album cover. It needs to be cool, but I think it's blending. It's a little balance of everything. It's blending cool with, because I work with rock artists, say like a Santana. We took Santana and he allowed us to be able to make music that was connected to kind of a spiritual frequency. And when we met with Carlos, it was just like, this is what the kind of artist that we really, really dig working with, And like, for example, one of the songs we did on the Supernatural album that was came out, I think in '99 or something, this big groundbreaking record, sold, I think, over 30 million copies, which is, very few artists have been able to do that. And we had a song on there. I say we, JB Eckel was my collaborator on a lot of music we did with Santana. But the song Primavera was the song that we did in Spanish. And it really kind of embodied these lyrics that were inspired in part by the Baha'i writings or actually incorporated the Baha'i writings. And so the song Primavera, which means springtime, was about it was about a time of renewal and change, but not just like from a flowers and the world perspective, but really a spiritual change that mankind is going through. That we feel like this is the new era right now that we're living in, where things are changing and blossoming and these beautiful things are happening from the darkened earth, And so it is a really great time to be alive. And I really think that we need to celebrate that. And our music should celebrate that.
Yeah.
We really need music that helps awaken us as well, because I really do feel like we fall into this stupor. We just fall into this darkness. And it's like, of course, the fact that we can just get anything we want materially, that's you know what I mean? It's available if we can afford it or not, but that becomes kind of like what we're chasing, instead of, wait a minute, there's this whole abundance of spiritual reality here that we could actually have, and it doesn't cost anything. I try to incorporate that into music.
No, that's amazing. And thank you for sharing that experience with us. I think one of the key things you mentioned is that balance. And I think that in music, as we say in the Baha'i writings, and as, I think many believe, music is food for the spirit and it nourishes us. The same way that you can eat good food that nourishes your spirit and makes you healthier, you could also eat bad food and it can make you sicker. And the same goes for music. You can have uplifting music that is unfortunately about sad things, but you can convey those messages in a way that is positive versus a way that's bad, without including bad words, for example. I think is one of the biggest ways that we see those negative emotions shown in music today, not having to convey it through bad words, but rather through ideas that make the mind think, is one way that makes music uplifting and moves it towards that spiritual realm of music. But I think that also really segues well into our next point and question, which is, what considerations do you feel are over or undervalued when choosing a career in music?
I think what is overvalued that I've heard a number of people talk about is, can I make a lot of money? And I've always said, don't get in it if you're trying to make money. Don't get into anything if that's your intention. I think that you have to be in it for the passion of how much you actually love whatever you love. Because I felt like I can do so much. I can produce a record, I can engineer an album, I can sing on an album. There's so many things that I can do, and then I do. I ended up having to engineer because sometimes I couldn't get an engineer, but I would have relied on an engineer. So I think it's important for us to, and I know I'm straying from the question, you might have to guide me back to it, but I think it's important to be capable of, as a producer, I have to look at the whole big picture, kind of like a contractor would in building a home. You got to know a little bit about every aspect of it. I know how to play. I know how to arrange. I don't play a lot of other instruments. I play the keyboards. Thank goodness with the keyboard, you can play a lot of other instruments through the keyboard, which is great. But as a singer, I can also kind of guide an artist through something and try to find where is their happy point.
You said, I think it's important to have that music knowledge beyond just going into it with, just knowing one aspect. It helps when you know more aspects of it and you can better assist people, especially like you said, from your perspective as a producer. That's also very key and important, doing so many different parts.
Right.
And I think one that I'm thinking of, and I want to see if you agree with me, is that I think when people think immediately, especially as youth, of a career in music, the first thing that comes to mind is being on stage. And it's being, I'm going to be the singer, I'm going to be a musician. And I think that's when they think that a career in the music industry is limited to either being a singer or being a musician and being in the people's eye, I guess, immediately at all times.
Right.
So would you say that one thing that's kind of maybe undervalued or maybe underconsidered is that there are other careers in the music industry, such as production, such as sound engineering, things like that you can go into, and maybe, you're thinking, oh, I love music, but I can't sing for my life, or I have no clue how to play an instrument, but I know that music is what I'm meant to do. Maybe those types of careers are something that you should look into, and that's some way that you can be and have a career in music. That is not what's typically thought of.
Yeah, I remember the maybe a little silly, but the young girl in School of Rock, right? She was always kind of like, criticizing or whatever, judging stuff, and then they said, you'll be the manager. It was perfect because she was somebody who came in and she said, this needs to be here, this needs to be. So there are people that have different I call them superpowers, because really I think everybody has a superpower. I feel like everybody also is an artist.
Yeah.
So like it or not, everyone has the potential to be able to communicate something. If you can write an email or if you can talk to somebody on the phone, you're an artist because you're a communicator. And the best artists, I believe, are the ones who are communicators. I think that we have to find the authenticity in everyone, in ourselves. What may be authentic for me may be the one thing that sets me apart from everybody else. And then it's great because I've had this abundance of authenticity in this particular area. I grew up in Guatemala, for example, so I speak Spanish. And I know things, about Latin music that a lot of people that didn't grow up in Guatemala know, So like the marimba was the instrument of the country,
Yeah.
So I've been using marimba in some of the things, and I may be using that a lot more in my next album, because it's such a cool instrument, But anyway, I'm getting ideas. Anyway.
No, that's great. And like you said, it gives you that little extra unique flair that makes it special. Being able to communicate in any type of way, whether it's through art, whether it's through music, whether it's, like you said, through writing a letter, an email, everybody has a way to communicate, and that's how they make impact. And the better you get at being able to communicate with people, even in day-to-day life, when we're just talking to people, our friends, text messages, even things like that, you're somehow making an impact of some sort, even if it's not a globe shaking impact, you're still making an impact. And that's what music is essentially about. So what does success mean to you specifically, and how has your definition of success evolved throughout your life and your career?
Success, it's weird because you have to be careful about if you let the success, kind of fool you into thinking like, oh, I've arrived, now I'm successful, and then you just let go, right? And then it's like, oh, now I can just kick back and everything will revolve around me. The highs and lows they're gonna happen all the time, and you want to try to stay even keeled. Hey, you have a success, great, okay, great. You have a no work for 6 months, okay, great. You just stay in there. I let the success thing just be more like, if I'm fulfilled musically and artistically and able to really communicate the things that I think are important, and do like great things with what I, try to give back to up and coming artists and do whatever I can do, that kind of thing. That's success to me.
I love that. And so, in addition to the music you have written and produced for many amazing artists from both the American and Latin music industries, you have also produced many foreign artists such as Sheb Khalid and Cheng Lin. How has working with these various artists and creating music that transcends borders helped you to express your world-embracing view and share the message of unity?
With them, wow. Yeah, I also worked with another artist named Kazem Al-Saher, who was from Iraq, and he's really well known in the Arab speaking world. So that all of the songs that I did with all those three artists that you mentioned, we did a song with Kazem, was called Love and Compassion. This is the time when the United States was sending a lot of force and aggression over to the Middle East. And I felt that the most timely or befitting response to that kind of behavior would be to send over love and compassion, that kind of light and of a message, right? So it was just kind of, the song was kind of like a prayer, and it just said, through love and compassion, will hatred die away. Let freedom be the voice of our new day. Assalamu alaikum, may peace be in the heart of every woman, every man in a song. But it had this like so it kind of like had this cool beat to it. Anyway, and then we did a song with Khalid, which was a duet with Carlos Santana, called Love to the People. And the chorus was singing love, love, love to the people now. Singing love, love, love to the children now. And it was a song that we did with, it was thinking of Bob Marley. And we did it with Elan Lyon is his name. And he used to sing with the Wailers, Bob Marley's backup singers. Anyway, so he just sang this beautiful thing. And Khaled is singing in Arabic, and then he sings in English too. So it was just kind of a cool, and Santana was doing his thing too. So trying to make statements. We did a song with Cheng Lin for we did a whole album with her called Greater Than Gold, and the single was called Greater Than Gold, which was for the Beijing Olympics many years back. And the song, the chorus said, you are the stars that light the way. You are the strength to give every day, and like the sun that warms the world, truth be told, your spirit of love is greater than gold. So just something that really kind of like brings you like this, hopefully, And she plays Arhu in it. She sings in it. I sang in it. It was intended for Josh Groban, and I ended up singing. But but that's what we try to do, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think from what you've mentioned about all the songs and the encompassing theme, they really all promote the idea of unity. And by showing all these different artists and these different cultures coming together through music, I mean, what a better way to show the idea of unity and diversity all in one place that everybody can enjoy, because music really does transcend borders. And kind of in that same spirit, you released an album called Kurtanderos. Can you tell us a little bit more about that album and the inspiration behind it?
Yeah, well, as you were saying that, I was like, I remember the song that I did. The first single, I think, was called La Pared. And it became an album which was kind of telling the story of the immigrant's journey, in a sense. It can be arduous, it can be hopeful at times, it can be painful, it can be very sad. But also it's also surrounding a very deep and powerful love that you have for your family that you're leaving behind, or a loved one that you're on your journey to be reunited with. So there are a lot of different kind of emotions throughout the record. But the first single was La Pared, which means the wall, and the song says que se caiga la pared, may the wall fall down, para que se junte mi gente, so my people can come together. And that was a somewhat of a protest song when we were talking so much about walls. And this song was written, I don't know, 10 years or 8 years ago. I mean, it was there, and I just felt, I wasn't sure if it was like the ideal sentiment to put out there, but I think a lot of people really understood that it was, again, it was telling this journey of a father and child that are crossing the border. You can see the video. It's a cool little animated video on my website. But anyway, La Pared, and then we have another single called Tanta Locura, which is a very flamenco-y thing. It's the one thing that kind of like, the flamenco is a little bit Europe, and but it really had this Rumi-esque kind of mystical side to it. I'm longing for you with so much madness that even the moon will make fun of me. It's that kind of mystical thing. And then what other songs we had? The other single was,
one of my favorites on the album is Ganto.
Ganto. That's it. Yeah.
Herencia de Tembiki. And I love that song. I love all the songs on the album. I remember a few years ago I went on it and I listened to everything, and I was like, I love this, and I had it on repeat. But like you were saying, all the messages behind everything is so amazing, and it's applicable to many people.
Ganto is the song that I was trying to remember, because that was a song that JB and I had, again, intended for Santana, and I sang the original demo, which I think you can still find online too. It doesn't sound like this new one does on the new record, which is very it's got kind of like a reggaeton kind of a beat to it, but it's the lyric says it just talks about the fog lifting off the rainforest or the cloud, and all the hope and possibility are in the air, and it says illumined from above. Give me the courage and the faith, and I will speak the truth. And it says canto, which is like a song, or I will sing. It's a double meaning kind of thing. Canto de la tierra, song of the earth. Canto de la tierra, canto, song of the struggle. Canto del alma y de la libertad, song of the soul and of freedom. Canto para que el mundo pueda escuchar. I sing so the world may listen. And then it goes on to talk about the kind of like the native traditions and the native wisdom that is right now held in the hands of the elders, or in the hearts and minds of the elders. If we let all this burn, we will lose this wisdom forever. And it really was a testament to how poorly we treat our native communities around the world, and how hopefully we can awaken the world to the reality of our brothers and sisters that are downtrodden and that are forgotten, the forgotten voices, or the
No, exactly.
Trying to raise that up a little. Yeah. And the video is cool too, because we got a lot of different, four different indigenous groups represented in the animated as well. Animated video.
How wonderful. And like you mentioned, the animation of the videos and the music videos, besides the songs being beautiful and the wonderful meanings that they have, the music video and the animation to them are so beautiful, and I think they just really complete the story. And with that, we're going to play Canto here for you guys to listen to right now.
Amanece lento sobre la selva, la neblina sola se levantará. Con el sol naciente vuelve a renacer toda la esperanza y posibilidad. Ilumina desde arriba. Dame el coraje y la fe y la verdad cantaré. Canto de la tierra, vibrando el ritmo de un tambor. Canto de la lucha que mueve las estrellas. Canto del alma y de la libertad. Canto a mi gente que puedan despertar. olvidadas, sangre y sudor, almas invisibles llenas de dolor. Y si la llama muere, ¿quién nos salvará? Pues la sabiduría nunca volverá. Ilumina desde arriba. Dame el coraje y la fe y la verdad cantaré. Canto en la tierra, latiendo como un corazón. Canto en la lucha que rompe las barreras. Canto del alma y de la libertad. Canto a mi gente que puedan despertar. Canto del amor y solidaridad. Canto para que el mundo pueda escuchar. Lucho por mi tierra. Canto, lloro, muero sin frontera. Canto por aquí, canto por allá. Canto por las voces que en silencio están. Canto para unir, canto por la paz. Canto en esta lucha por la libertad. Dame el coraje y la fe y la verdad cantaré. Canto en la tierra, unidos al alzar la voz. Canto en la lucha que cruza las fronteras. Canto del alma y de la libertad. Canto a mi gente que pueda despertar. Canto del amor y solidaridad. Canto para que el mundo pueda escuchar.
So, Mr. Porter, as we've been talking, one of your biggest messages has been the impact that music makes, and that impact being a good and positive impact and something that uplifts the soul and awakens people's minds and souls. So, with that, what is your view on the impact that music should have on society? In keeping with that message, and kind of like we talked about today in some of the previous questions, and how does this perspective align or differ from the current impact of the music of today's society?
I think that music has a big responsibility, and musicians and artists have really are the ones who have the responsibility with what they put out there. And I think sometimes we want to put something out there either because we heard something that was cool or we want to follow trends. But I think that the challenges that we have is when music, it pulls us down. I think there's talk about like the prostitution of the arts. I mean, it's a horrible thought, but it's like if you think about that reality, that's a tough thing. That if music is sold without any regard for what the effect that it can have on society, and videos are now pushing the limits, and they're getting more I don't want to say inappropriate or more they're losing so much of their moral fiber or moral structure, and they're just straying from kind of like from our reality of who we are, which is we're spiritual beings. So when they become more steeped in materialism or material or or things that are just praising just the wrong belief sets, we need to really be mindful of having that moral compass. And but it's going to be a personal thing for everyone. Andy Grammer, for example, is a great artist. He's a pop artist that's doing really uplifting music, but he's not preaching, though. He's not saying like, here's a spiritual quote from my religion or anything like that. And that's really, everybody will be somewhere on that spectrum. An artist that I worked with a lot, he had done an album that was very much very dark, and he actually wanted me to work on his next album, and I said I just don't want to go down into that dark area. So it's a tough thing to navigate. So I think our responsibility again is to try to use music to be this powerful tool to uplift people's conscience, and a spiritual conscience in people. Again, to be a ladder to the soul. How powerful! I mean, that's more powerful than anything.
Yeah.
To be able to do that.
Oh, exactly.
And that's kind of like something that has really informed me throughout my career, is that excellence in all things. It's from the Baha'i writings, talks about that kind of high standard. Yeah. So I've always wanted everything I do that I put my name on, every single note, to be kind of like the stamp of certification from me as the producer. In the beginning, you kind of don't really know, and you're kind of light about it, and I don't know, everybody's just kind of like, yeah, and then all of a sudden the thing comes out, and then they're looking at you, you're the producer, so what happened? And you're like, I don't know, it's like you can't blame anybody. Yeah. So you learn very fast that you have to speak up now about what needs to happen. People are going to want answers, and I'm doing the producer master class. But anyway,
like you said, with all of the examples, that using music as service, by putting out music, you're making people either happy, you're making them feel some sort of way, you're making some type of impact. And I think, like, throughout this whole conversation, we're seeing how everything comes back to the impact of music, really. Why not make it so that it's something positive? As a member of the Recording Academy and the Latin Recording Academy, can you tell us a bit about your experience being on those committees, and the Grammy selection process itself?
Well, it's a peer-based thing. So people are nominating themselves, or they're nominating people that I mean, it's usually the labels or the artists or management that will not nominate the artist, but the peers are the ones who will vote for them. So it's a kind of a time-consuming process, which I think hopefully weeds out any of the the non-legit stuff, but they still get hundreds and hundreds of submissions every year, so it's a lot to go through. And it's interesting because it's kind of like voting for offices, like the presidency or whatever, where you can have a third of the people will be voting for this particular candidate, but like all the rest will vote for are voting for this candidate. But if they've got three different candidates, all of a sudden their vote gets watered down. So it's like the country market. They got a lot of people in the country market. So if you've got Taylor Swift up against, 2 or 3 major pop artists that probably did better than Taylor Swift perhaps that year, who knows? Taylor Swift is gonna win if all the country votes are going to her, as an example. But you never know. You're not supposed to lobby either. It's not. It's like, I mean, I think the way the voting processes should be is that we should not be campaigning and lobbying, and they discourage that, and they actually prohibit that.
In keeping with the whole thing about the Recording Academy and the Latin Recording Academy, besides the selection process and learning about what that's like, what unique perspective do you bring to the selection process, considering your perspective and the values you try to share through your music and work?
I think it's really trying to make sure we really honor that high level of excellence, and at the same time, it's a because it's not the People's Choice Awards for the Grammys. At least the Grammys are again peer based, so hopefully it's about quality, like a really well recorded project, a well written, great lyrics, great team behind it.
It's so interesting hearing, how that process really works. And so at this segment of the show, we're kind of going to switch gears and we're going to angle it more towards youth. So we're going to start talking a little bit more specifically about youth and their role in society. So the next question is, what do you think is the role of youth and service in today's society?
Youth. I think youth have a wonderful energy, and I think that what sticks out the most is this altruistic nature that youth really, for the most part, want to see they want to see justice. They want to see fairness in things in society. Just the same way as even like, a young child would see, like, why is that person on the street? And why are they baking? Why are they, so I think that as you get older, you move past your youth and you kind of think, well, I guess it's just society has just kind of like forgotten about these people. Oh, well, that's the way it goes. But youth are like, no, that's not the way it goes. This shouldn't be happening. And I love it. Like to see youth like yourself stand up and say, no, this is not right. And I want other youth to stand up and be prepared to make statements. When you see somebody fall down or you see somebody knocked down, you're not going to go like, what's your reaction going to be? Are you going to be a person that goes like, oh, or, are you going to say, hey, don't, are you going to walk over and say, don't, no, or like, can I help you up? You have to be prepared. You have to kind of walk through these scenarios in your head. And I think that happens at an earlier age, and then you carry that through with you, through life. So youth is a great time to learn, to become deepened. And as we were talking, spiritually deepened. You start learning things at a younger age, and that information will really stay with you. So, it gets harder. It gets harder later on, but like later on, you're kind of like in autopilot. So whatever you were able to collect when you were young, hopefully will usually be there because if you learned it when you were younger. Go youth.
That's the perfect point that you made. What we learn to do as youth, the more we learn to be of service, the more we learn to stand up for what's right, the more we develop that confidence to help one another and put others before ourselves, not to harm ourselves, but to the point where we're helping everyone. That's what we're going to take with us into adulthood. And that's what's going to help us make the world a better place. And that's going to just continue as the cycle continues. So I love hearing that. And thank you for mentioning that. And so what advice do you have for these youth who want to pursue music, singing, or music production as a career?
There's a couple things that I suggest. The first thing I think is building a network. Don't be afraid to reach out to people, either people that are established, that know a lot about their craft, so you can either be an intern for someone who really, who knows a lot, has a lot of, exposure and access to that world, but also creating kind of a network of, if you're a lyricist, but you don't play any instruments, try to surround yourselves with musicians that play and become an asset for them, or vice versa. If you don't know lyricists, find lyricists, become their friends. And if you start at an early age, again, the people that you meet today, it's amazing. It's power. You're building, kind of like building artistic equity. You're somebody who you meet today because you reached out, you found them through some whatever, you made some calls, and then all of a sudden now you have this connection.
Yeah.
10 years from now, you're gonna look back and, oh my gosh, I can imagine not having that friend in my life. and you multiply that by dozens of people that you connect with, and you'll just have all these resources. I've done that maybe like overkill, because I have business cards, like boxes and boxes of business cards, which I don't think I'll ever, the numbers, probably none of them work anymore. But I really feel like I've always been like, hey, what do you do? And then the following day, perhaps I'll talk to somebody, and I said, oh yeah, I just met so-and-so who's the head of this company, and hey, here, give them a call, and I'll give her a call, trying to really connect the dots. And I think that's really important. So building that network. Other things that I would suggest is writing a lot. If you want to be a songwriter, write every day, and give yourself permission. Give yourself, say tomorrow, like you said, you called me like weeks ago, and you said, like, it's going to be Wednesday morning at this time, and here's all the information. So you make an appointment with somebody, they'll take you seriously, and now you have that time, and you could do that with yourself. You can say, Wednesday mornings at 10 a.m. I'm going to work for 2 hours on my music, and anything comes up, oh, I'm sorry, Wednesday morning I can't, and then you may have to move that to Thursday. Okay, I'll shift that. But you make that your sacred time, and you play your instrument, you write your lyrics, you pour your thoughts out, or you read writings that inspire you, or whatever inspires you.
Wonderful advice, and thank you for sharing with us.
Mm-hmm.
So as our episode comes to its end, I wanted to first say thank you very much, Mr. Porter, for your insight and advice today. It's been wonderful speaking with you, and I've loved our conversation so much. To learn more about Mr. Porter and to check out his work, visit his website at caseyporter.com. Also, be sure to follow Mr. Porter on his socials at Casey Porter Official on Instagram and Casey Face on Facebook. Mr. Porter has been working on a lot of upcoming projects, including working on building a global music collection in collaboration with Facebook. He has also been working on producing the Mexican ska band Panteon Rococo's latest singles, and is in the process of working on music for his next album. Would you like to share more about these projects with us?
If you like ska music, that's it. Panteon, they're crazy. We're doing a song that might be with Gwen Stefani. We're not sure what the plan is right now, but they're great. And but with COVID, it's hard to get them back in the studio. But we've already recorded before COVID. We had recorded some songs, and now we have 2 singles that came out. One of them was the Selena song, Si Alguna Vez. So we did that, and then and then my album, my new. I'll be working on singles, so look for some singles coming out at some point, probably in the summer, maybe, or pre-summer. And we're basically just kind of teaming up with people around the world that we have been working with over the years, more specifically Latin America, and helping Facebook build just a very beautiful library of music to be able to be used across all of their platforms, from Instagram to Facebook Watch, Reels, whatever they're doing, they have there. So we're trying to make sure that they have a good, nice, balanced library of fun, inspiring, and up-to-date music, and traditional, whatever they need.
That's so cool. Well, thank you for sharing all of that with us. And you guys can be sure that when these projects come out, we'll be talking about them on the Spirit of Success. So make sure to follow us on our platforms. So thank you again for your time today, Mr. Porter. And as always, thank you all for listening. Be sure to subscribe, follow, and like the podcast on its various platforms, including YouTube, Spotify, and Google Podcasts, to be notified each time a new episode is posted. If you want to get the latest updates about the show, announcements, and submit questions that you would like me to consider to talk about on the show, follow us on Instagram at spirit.of.success and Facebook at spirit.of.success9. Until next time, I'm your host, Yara, and don't forget to continue challenging yourself and working to make your spirit soar to new heights. Bye!
Bye. Thank you, Yara.